We've got our plans and our permits. It's time for Building Hendricks Blue. Welcome again to Building Hendricks Blue. I'm Frank, and on this episode, we'll be talking to Dr. Karen Whitney, candidate for the 28th District of the Indiana House. But before that, let's spend a few minutes on four very small but very important words. Get out the vote. Sometimes it's referred to as the ground game. Others call it grassroots politics. But no matter what you call it, the practice is the same. People talking to people, spreading the word one vote at a time, either by door knocking, phone or text banking, or postcard writing. When District 4 Democratic Chair Matt Mayer addressed the Hendricks County Party in June, he put it this way.
There's 127,000 registered voters in Hendricks County. How many people do we realistically think we can talk to if we've only got 10 people knocking doors or making phone calls? How many people do we realistically think we can talk to if we have 100 people doing it? Or 200? For every 17 doors you knock, you add a vote. For every 189 doors you just drop lid at, you add a vote. For every 381 text messages you send, you add a vote. You see how those numbers keep climbing? If you knock on 1,000 doors, that's 53 votes. But if you send 1,000 texts, it's 2.5 votes.
Sure, raising money and buying ads are important, but there are many recent examples of a candidate who got outspent, but still went on winning by shaking more hands and kissing more babies. The Hendricks County Democrats have a goal of talking to every registered Democrat before the general election. Field Operations Chair Elizabeth Coleman said her plan to help elect Democrats is very simple.
We talk to them. We call them. We say, hi, I'm a volunteer. I'm a Democrat here in Hendricks County. Are you a Democrat too? Great, come out and vote. There are thousands and thousands of voters in Hendricks County who feel like they are the only one. And if there's anything that I've heard from the stories just tonight, from Ted with his numbers and from Darcy with her story, it's that we just need to talk to them and say hi and engage them. And that is what this field plan is all about, is getting people engaged in building our Democratic community. So I am Elizabeth. I am the area captain for Avon, Washington Township. I have already started digging into the Voter Action Network, precinct by precinct, and there are just shy of 10,000 either high, medium, or low propensity Democrats in Washington Township alone that I want to contact between now and Labor Day, and I need your help to do it. Will you? Will you help me do that?
We have a great roster of candidates this year, folks who are giving their all to win their races. Let's give them the support they need to give us the leaders we deserve. Representative Jeffrey Thompson is finishing his 14th term in the State House. That's 28 years. Recently, he authored the state's plans to cut nearly $800 million from local schools in a law so confusing that even fellow Republicans admitted that while they voted for it, they didn't really understand it. And the Indiana Chamber of Commerce couldn't decide if it was pro or anti-business. Thompson also chairs the House committee that writes banking and tax policy while simultaneously serving as a director for a local bank. He is a vocal opponent of women's health and civil rights protections for Indiana's LGBTQ community. Dr. Karen Whitney wants you to know that we no longer have to put up with him. We talked to her in the Blueprint. We are joined on Building Hendricks Blue by Dr. Karen Whitney, candidate for the 28th District of the Indiana House. Dr. Whitney, may I call you Karen?
Yes, Frank. Please call me Karen. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. And could you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Yeah. I am a former college president and chancellor. I'm a lifetime educator I've led universities, public universities throughout my career. First starting at the University of Houston and the University of Texas at San Antonio. Then what brought me to Indiana in 1999, I joined IUPUI as a vice chancellor for student life. And I served which is like a vice president. And then I served in that role for 11 years. And then in 2010, I had just the wonderful honor of going to be president of a university in Western Pennsylvania called Clarion University. And I served there many years. And then actually I ran the system for a little while in Pennsylvania. And then I decided to go into consulting. But then during the pandemic, I was called to service again, and I was interim chancellor at the University of Illinois Springfield. So I'm a lifetime higher educator, administrator, and leader. I believe passionately in the transformative effects of education. And in fact, that education is a lifelong experience from birth to death. And I'm very passionate about that and the role that our community and society, the role of the state, the role government should have in supporting our educational efforts is core to who I am.
And you are running for the 28th House District, correct?
That's correct. I'm running to be a state representative for the Indiana District 28, which is a, not surprisingly, over gerrymandered district that is predominantly in Hendricks County, but then goes into 3 precincts in Montgomery County and 3 precincts in Boone County. And it's this long kind of gangly rectangle. And in fact, it's not even all of Brownsburg, it's half of Brownsburg and all of Danville and a little bit of Plainfield and a lot of cornfields in between. So it's a beautiful district. I love cornfields. I love Sunday drives through the cornfields, particularly this time of year, because they're just so cool. It's a geeky thing I love. And I love rural communities. And my district is very much where the suburban meets the rural.
On your website, whitneyforindiana.com, you list 3 points why people should choose you to be their representative in the 28th District. The first of which is you're not a politician. Why do you think that's an advantage for you?
Well, I'm not a career politician. I will never be a career politician. Should I earn the votes to put me into office, I'll tell you right now, I will term limit myself. At the same time, I'm going to work toward establishing term limits for state rep and state senator. In fact, I think every elected position should have a term limit. Now, what's particularly clear in this case, in our own Indiana state in our own state constitution, the legislature is referred to as a citizen legislature. And by design, it is part-time. So our founders never expected anyone to make this a career. It is meant to be a point where you come of age through life, you achieve certain things, you achieve certain wisdoms and thoughts and experiences, and then you take that and represent the people as a fellow citizen, not as a permanent career politician. So that's hence, I think, at the core of a representative government and the certainly clear intent in our state constitution to that effect. And I believe in that. I think that for people who serve, 10, 20, 30 years, there's a corrupting influence that could easily occur when you believe you're impervious to the interests and of the citizens. And so I think term limits, keep it sharp, keep it focused and accountable. I will term limit myself. And that's why I say I am not a career politician. I have worked with politicians as a former college president, state reps, state legislature, state senators, governors. I've worked with lots of people. I have a very clear view on the job and what constitutes doing a good job and what constitutes doing a bad job. I've got great clarity on that. Given my background academically, my doctorate is in higher education, economics, and finance. My master's is in public administration. I have led large, complex institutions. I have a great clarity on how government should work, how government agencies should work, and I'm also clear on where we are not working in this state.
We are talking to Dr. Karen Whitney, candidate for the Indiana House District 28. Karen, the second point of your platform is you want to fix our government. When we spoke before, you mentioned how corruption exists in all levels of government, especially among career officials like your opponent, who has known no other profession for almost 30 years. You've already said that you would term limit yourself, so this won't happen to you. But what other ways would you go about fixing the corruption in government?
Yeah, I think in fixing government, what really many things lack just structurally. I think every meeting, every committee meeting, every hearing should be easily accessible online to any citizen who wants to watch it in real time. I think there ought to be ways that citizens can send their comments easily and be part of the process. I think one problem, a big problem we have in one party rule now for almost 30 years, and a lot of people I talk to don't realize this, that the backroom deal making that is occurring that creates laws that govern and control us, it happens now over and over and over again. And so all of us are oftentimes are told what our laws are going to be. And we're surprised by them. We weren't involved with them. We didn't have a say in them, but yet they're put upon us, and they reflect the interests of special interest groups or a few. And that's part of corruption also. Corruption can be about putting the state's money into your own pocket or the pocket of your friends, but there can be also a corruption of not really listening to what your voters want and only doing what you want or the people who fund you want. There are a lot of people who, get reelected in their job. Their job isn't to represent us, it's to get reelected. And again, that gets back to corruption. That's why I think term limits is a good first start. I think on anything where we set districts and redistricting, politicians in this state, politicians set the districts. My opponent has been able to pick his voters. I'm so gerrymandered, you'd crack up laughing if you saw the map. He's got to pick his voters. Actually, voters should pick politicians. Only a citizen-led commission should set these districts. If someone has ever been a politician or they're currently a politician, they should not be on a commission to set districts. Citizen-led districts and term limits. I also think another thing is citizen-led initiatives. There's no way that if I want to rally on something I believe in, that I can get an item to the voters, and that's wrong. So career politicians are gatekeepers, and they control what becomes policy and law in this state. And I have no way around that. I cannot take my case to my fellow citizens, and I should be able to. The other thing is finance reform. I really think there needs to be an elimination of special interest groups giving money to politicians. My opponent is the author of school vouchers. My opponent has led the effort at defunding the state government. Well, who's benefited from that? I think if you go look to who's been funding his campaigns, it makes me wonder, are some of these major funders benefiting from his decisions? That's corruption.
Karen, you mentioned school funding, so let's get into that. Your opponent just authored the law that cut nearly $800 million from local schools and almost another $750 million from local governments, while leaving a surplus of $6 billion in the state's rainy day fund, unappropriated. Does that seem fair to you?
It's short-sighted and it's elitist. It really says that the role of government needs to be very narrow and very mean-spirited, and people are supposed to just fend for themselves. So I think there's the defunding of schools, which means that we are defunding our future. That when, for example, Brownsburg, where I live right now, the Brownsburg School District, I understand, is going to lose $9 million over 3 years. I can tell you right now what's going to happen. And it's because I, as a former president, I was an administrator. And there were years where I got more money from the state, and there were years I got less money from the state. So I can tell you exactly what I believe is going on right now. First, they have a holy crap moment. Holy crap, I'm losing $9 million over 3 years. Okay. Okay. You get your arms around that. Then there is an issue about, well, where do we cut our, where do we make our cuts? Where do we reduce our budget? And maybe there's some things that are just off the table and gone. Then there's going to be some things because there's regulations, there's state regulations, there's federal regulations that are not negotiable to be funded. There's also the ethical requirements of what does it take to fundamentally protect and care and teach and educate children. Well, that has a sunk cost to it. Buildings have a set cost. So there's going to be a point, and it started happening now, is that they're going to come up with other ways to get people's money. So, and by the way, I predict 3 years from now, we're going to say, well, yeah, my property taxes went down $200 a year, but this fee and this fee and this tax and this and this and this went up 500. So yeah, good my opponent. He brought my property tax down $200, but my total now is 500. So I am paying more for less. And class sizes go up. There's something when you run things with buildings, which our schools are, called maintenance and deferred maintenance. So if your gym smells like old gym socks, or the roof leaks, or the microscope is broken, that's deferred maintenance, and that's going to go up. Teacher salaries will stay the same or go down. Classroom sizes will go up. Deferred maintenance will go up because this state has decided to be a deadbeat dad when it comes to funding schools. And they do the same thing to colleges. The Indiana higher education was a jewel of this country. And it is also being attacked and attacked and attacked and attacked. And we are suffering for that as a state. 30 years ago, when my opponent got into office, the median income of people in this state was above the median income of people in this country. We were higher than. We are now lower than, significantly lower than.
And I find it ironic he's doing this cutting when before he became a state lawmaker, almost 30 years ago, he was a teacher.
You'll have to ask him. It's a head shaker to me. It's a head shaker to me on, you're right, how somebody who dedicated their professional career, well, their first career, because now clearly their second career is being a politician. Their first career was being a teacher, that they would be doing this. I think it's fundamentally flawed. It's a mistake. Defunding schools is just, it's just a horrible thing. It is in the Constitution, the Indiana Constitution, to fund public education. So in my view, his efforts are violating our Constitution.
Again, Karen Whitney is with us on Building Hendricks Blue. Karen is the Democratic candidate for the Indiana House, District 28. Karen, your opponent has taken a stance against women's health issues and LGBTQ civil rights. Would you share your stance on these issues?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I have a personal stance on both those issues. I think, for example, when you seek elected office, you seek elected office for people who are like you and not like you. You seek elected office for the taxpayers, the citizens, not for people who agree with you or people who are just narrowly like you, okay? And I think my opponent's initiatives and efforts clearly only reflect people that appear to be just like him. And they're neglecting the whole quality of life of an entire community. And my commitment is to listen and support. For example, around LGBTQ, we need to ensure that people are protected. If you're lesbian, gay, trans, or queer, you have a right to housing, to employment, to health care, to being safe in this community. You're a taxpayer. Somebody may agree or disagree with the labels or your life, but that's on them. That's not how our government should be. If I follow the laws, if I pay my taxes, I deserve certain things. And I think it's fundamental that government do that for each and every person and not pick and choose. I think in terms of women's health, let's talk about health, because all of us, no matter who we are, we have health. And in my view, the role of government should be narrow. It should be about, and I've conferred degrees. I've conferred degrees to healthcare professionals at multiple institutions. So I believe very strongly the role of government is to ensure safe and effective, that our practitioners conduct themselves in a way, and when we're working with patients, that they have been educated and trained, and they're the best to be safe and effective in what they do. The equipment, the drugs, all the stuff around our healthcare is safe and effective. That is it. Otherwise, government, get out of my doctor's office. That when I'm in my doctor's office and I'm talking about my health and what I want in terms of healthcare, I don't want government in there. It is horrible in this state. The amount of things our healthcare professionals now cannot tell us. We are not getting the best healthcare in the state of Indiana. We are getting cultural crap healthcare. Because of cultural issues and divisiveness in this state, we are getting crappy healthcare. Not because our professionals, they are the best, and I have nothing but love and appreciation, but they are being constrained. And I can tell you, we are having a brain drain of some of the best people leaving this state because they're like, wait a minute, I have my own ethics, I have my own standards, I know what's right. And there are state laws now that are telling me how to be a doctor in a way that I know is wrong. So I need to tell citizens they are losing good doctors. We are not getting the best health care, and it is because of this culture crap agenda that is trying to substitute for good, solid healthcare policy.
Another item cut hard by your opponent is public health and specifically mental health funding. How would you differ on this issue?
The way I process anything that matters, whether it's running a university or being a state rep, is let's be very clear in defining the problem we want to solve or the priority we want to advance. And I listen to experts. I don't listen to just somebody who's AI'd something or read something or they just made it up off a napkin. I listen to experts, to people who've spent careers studying, researching, thinking through the problem. For example, in mental health, let's talk about teen suicide. There are a lot of policies in Indiana that I fear is going to ratchet up teen suicide. And I lose my mind on that because it's so wrong that I think we haven't listened to healthcare professionals. So first of all, we need to bring back the light of day on legislative meetings instead of these backroom antics where they cook this crap up and then throw it on us. That's what you're talking about, Frank. I mean, a lot of this defunding stuff they do in back rooms and they come out with it like it's just fine. It is not just fine. We need hearings. We need expert testimony. We need to have a clarity on what's the problem we're trying to solve. Like, for example, one problem I absolutely want to solve is violence in our schools. Do you know violence in our schools is the #1 cause of death of children? That's
I did not know that.
crazy. That is crazy. There is no way that going to school should be a threat to your survival. For me, school was a safe place. It was a nurturing place. It's where I grew and I read and I dreamed and I prepared for a great life that I've had. And that's what I want for every child, not to go to school every day worried you're going to get shot at. That's what we have in this state. And we have not taken seriously what we can really do to reduce gun violence against our children in our schools. That's because we don't have a legislature that works. We have backroom career politicians that are more interested in advancing themselves and their friends personally than in solving our problems that we deal with as everyday people.
Joining us on Building Hendricks Blue is candidate for the 28th District State Representative, Dr. Karen Whitney. Karen, you can't go anywhere in public these days without hearing someone complaining about affordability. How does state government factor into those issues?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple things. We don't have our tax policy right in this state at all. Although I will always say that we have actually, our tax problem is not a tax problem. Our tax problem is that we have an income problem. I mean, if people had better wages, if they were making more, where our taxes are according to other states throughout, so you wouldn't be so stressed about your taxes if you had more income. I will say, though, we need to really relook at not just one tax. Like I know a lot of people and my opponent and his party have been talking about property taxes. By the way, they've been talking about eliminating property taxes. I believe that is an attempt to manipulate people, and it's a lie. I'm going to call that out. There is no state in this country that doesn't have some form of property tax. So I think it's an attempt to manipulate, and there's really no interest in actually doing away with property taxes. I think it's like, pay attention over here so I can get you to vote for me, and I'm offended by it. It's a ridiculous concept. What we need to look at is the whole mix of taxes. We need to look at what is it we want our taxes to pay for first. What is it? What's the problem we want to solve or the priority we want to achieve collectively as a community? And there are things that we can't do individually, like clean drinking water, sewers that work, trash. There's so much that we can't do individually that we do need to do collectively as a community, as a society. And I think we've got to look, and I've mentioned also my concern about gun violence and teen health and healthcare. We can't solve these problems individually. We do need to solve them collectively, and in our civil society, we solve it through government. So we've not had, in my opinion, a sensible discussion as a community in whether it's in Hendricks County or the state to that fundamental question. What do we want our state tax dollars to do for us? Okay, then the second question is what's the most efficient and what's the most fair way to get that money there? There's property tax, income tax, sales tax, special taxes. All four of those affect people differently at different points in their life. I'm going to, in about 90 seconds, give you a whole year's lecture on this. Okay, income tax most impacts people who are in their working years. Property tax can most adversely affect older people toward the end of their working years or post-working years. Sales tax most negatively impacts poorer people. Right. Special fees taxes really can, I think also like a sales tax, affect poorer people. So right now, we have done a great job of hurting older people and poorer people. And because our average wages are below the national average, we're now also hurting working people who are in their working years. So we've really done a bad job all the way around. And I think we can sit down, look at this, and look at what should the mix be so we can support people, not keep them down.
Again, Karen, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Frank. Have a great day and see you, everybody. Bye.
To learn more about Karen's campaign, please go to her website, whitneyforindiana.com. Karen is just one of an extremely impressive roster of Democratic candidates for this year's election. While watching a national news program, I heard a professional pundit call this year's midterms a bottom-up election. Now, I'd never heard that term before, and if you haven't either, I'll paraphrase his description. He said in November, good local candidates would help elect good state candidates, who would assist in electing good national Democratic candidates. That's the polar opposite of what we are normally told. The theory of strong national candidates having coattails, dragging those below into office. If this bottom-up theory is correct, the fate of our party's candidates starts with the actions of the local party. And thankfully, the Hendricks County Democratic Party is ready to do their parts. Now, if you've been a consumer of this program at all, you've heard on several occasions me report on the work of Elizabeth Coleman and her Field Operations Committee. They've been workshopping calling nights, organizing canvassing, and planning a strong get-out-the-vote drive for November. But November 3rd is less than 80 days away, and there is so much to do. And that's where you come in. One of my favorite quotes is from a descendant of the great American patriot Nathan Hale, 19th century writer Edward Everett Hale. He wrote, "I am only one, but I am one. I cannot do everything, but I can do something." We can all do something. There's canvassing, phone calling, texting, postcard writing, and other activities that need someone just like you to do. Recently, I went on a phone banking event. I'd never done it before, and I'll admit I was a bit apprehensive about it. After I started, I found there was no reason for my anxiety. The organizer of the event had a list for me to call, explained everything I needed to know in small words so I could understand them, and helped me get started. I worked for about an hour, and in that time, I talked to 4 very nice people, 3 of which were happy to have the information that I had, and 2 of them wanted to know how they could help. And if you're wondering about the 4th person, she said she just didn't have time to talk to me when I called. I also left about 20 messages for others who didn't answer at the time. I found it a worthwhile experience, which I intend to repeat again shortly. We all know the importance of this election. If we can win this one, many other of the out-of-control actions in Washington will be checked. Plus, there's a better chance that the presidential election in 2028 will be a free and fair one. I urge you to go to HendricksCountyDemocrats.com, check out the events calendar, and find an opportunity to help out. Please, don't sit by and hope others can do the necessary work. Knock, call, text, write a note, pitch in, find a role, and bring a friend. As many hands make light work. Thanks again for joining us today. I hope you'll take a minute and go to our website, buildinghendricksblue.com. There you can link to our podcast, see the list of local candidates and some of their upcoming events, plus drop us an email to let us know how you're enjoying our program. We're on Apple Podcast, Audible, iHeart, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Spotify, and of course, our YouTube channel, plus Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X. Please help us out by liking, subscribing, and sharing our post. Thanks in advance for your help. We appreciate you being there. Stop by again next time when we continue building Hendricks Blue.